Hey guys, welcome back. So, I'm talking with a guest today that I met about a month ago. He's a recruiter by profession, but he's also had some other past business ventures. But I'm interested in his AI resume builder and a few other things that we kind of got into the last time we talked. So, Colin McIntosh is who I'm going to be talking with. So, my friend, tell us a little about you.
Well, I have a very weird background. I graduated from Emory University in Atlanta in 2012. I worked at the world's largest hedge fund right out of school, got fired in about 5 months, probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I became a recruiter, like you mentioned, at the company that hired me there. So I ended up actually recruiting for the hedge fund, a bunch of Fortune 100 companies, banks, as well as some startups. And I ended up loving the startup recruiting so much that I actually hired myself into one of my open roles at one of my clients, which was a software company in Seattle. And then when I was 24, I moved out to Seattle. I chased success out there. In about a year, my friend that I had helped start her company, she called me and said, "Hey, we got into a program in Boulder, Colorado called TechStars, which is a tech accelerator. They give you $100,000 and tell you to work your hardest for 3 months and then go raise some money." And I moved down to Colorado for the summer of 2015 as a 25-year-old kid. Worked, 40, 50 hours. Sometimes those were days consecutively. Like, so probably was working 100-hour weeks. And we were just, a couple kids, five of us trying to figure out how to start a company. Ended up in 2017 starting my own business called Sheets and Giggles, which made sustainable eucalyptus sheets, pillows, mattresses. And I ended up, that was my biggest success to date. I went from zero to $1 million a month in sales in about 2 years since I shipped my first box. We launched with the help of crowdfunding. We raised a few $100,000 on Indiegogo with pre-orders to get going. And I went through Techstars 2019 as a founder. I raised about $6 million for the business in terms of venture funding. And then I exited that business last year in 2025. And the brand still continues to live on under new ownership. Um, and since then, I've decided, like you alluded to, I am now doing full time recruiting again, actually for the same CEO that I used to recruit for. I really trust him and admire him a lot. Kind of taking a break from entrepreneurship a little bit, and I do full time executive tech recruiting. So I hire chief technology officers for my full time job into CTO positions at startups, public companies, and a lot of really awesome clients. And then, like you mentioned, I can't stay away from entrepreneurship for too long. I'm also running an AI resume builder in my spare time that is cutely named Sheets Resume. Reminds me of my first business. And we do about 30,000 resumes per month for our members. And we help people all over the world to get jobs. We've had users in every country on earth, and I just love helping people find jobs. So it's very meaningful for me, and we do a lot with a little.
Well, I could say that my professional life is a little wild too. So, I guess you could say my professional life has been an odd combination of public service and ed tech. So, my bachelor's was in sociology. I got my bachelor's, yeah, in the fall of 2009
Mm.
at McNeese State University, which is the local university in my hometown, Lake Charles, Louisiana. So I thought I was going to get an MSW. And then, after an interview with child welfare, I was like, I don't know. So I I ended up going to grad school because, look, I needed money. I was like, okay, I'll maybe get a grad assistantship or some student worker
Something.
employee, because I needed some funds, man. And so I said, well, I looked at the instructional technology or ed tech, and I said, okay, I like this. But then I got that master's. Okay. And ironically, I end up working in social services in food stamps for almost 5 years. So I did that from December of 2012 until June of 2017 when a disaster recovery position came up that was a couple of hours away from my hometown, paying more money. But then I get there, it really didn't make sense. Coming from case management, and I looked at the way they were running things. I was like, yeah, that's not right. No. Uh, hell no. Policies don't change that much. So after about 5 weeks, I was laid off.
Mm,
Thankfully, I qualified for 5 months of unemployment. Then
mm.
I got a job as an administrative assistant at the university that I graduated from in their e-learning office. Did that
See,
for
that was
about
that was the first job I got fired from was an administrative assistant. I was
uh,
terrible at that.
then
So bad.
did that for like 3 years. And what's funny about that? So the guy that hired me, I only worked with him for about 5 months before he abruptly left. I suspect campus politics played a role in that, but I digress. so I so I did that, and then I got a position doing similar work, making more money in East Texas. And then I guess you could say shit hit the fan after 2.5 years. I moved back home. I got a job at a for-profit organization. It was a case management agency, Behavior Services of Louisiana.
Okay.
And well, I got the job. It was as a regional trainer, but I had like no say really in how it would go. Like the trainings were basically PowerPoints that I really was not allowed to add anything to. And I'm like, okay, why am I sitting here basically just reading this to new caseworkers doing their orientation? I'm like, why don't I just give this to them and just, save us both some time? you know, Everything I tried to implement, I was I was turned down.
Mm,
So I said, you know what? I'm out. I can see where this is going. I'm not gonna stay where I'm not wanted. So between jobs, I started doing food deliveries, and I still do them part time. But right now, I'm back working in the world of public service. But
mm-hmm.
um, at motor vehicles right now, renewing
Yep.
licenses
Yep.
and registering vehicles, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So that's my professional life. Oh, yeah, I'm an election worker as well. So
Well, I mean, yeah, it's very important work that you do, and I think that a lot of people don't realize how important it is.
agreed. So that, and what's funny, I worked my first election, I would say 2014, because took the I took the test to do so in like 2013, and then my first election was, I think it was a runoff election, if I
Okay.
recall correctly. So yeah, I've been doing that, for for about 10 years,
Nice.
except for that little 2 year break that I had while I was in East Texas.
Very cool.
So now I'm interested in the your resume builder. So now AI, we know that AI is a hot topic right now. Now, and forgive me if it sounds a little, do you think that this is going to, my concern is always that after so many folks use AI, it's going to be kind of obvious to see who uses AI and who doesn't. I mean, I think
Yeah.
we all use it to some extent.
Yeah. So you're saying, is it obvious when people use AI to write their
Right,
resume or to write, anything?
right.
I think so. I very much think so. The dilemma is that writing is hard.
It
And
is.
so for like 90% of people, I might even say like 95% of people, um shit, I might say 99% of people, A-
Right.
AI writing is a massive upgrade in their writing ability. And
And to
so, yeah.
yeah, so go ahead.
Well, so I was going to say, so the answer to your question is yes. I think that I can spot AI writing, and I think that a lot of people, there are tells and there are different ways to spot it. But the question isn't really, can someone spot AI writing, and do they think that that's reflects negatively on you? I think the question is, does it create a better product for you than you would have otherwise had? Now,
Right.
I don't think that it should be a substitute for thinking. And in fact, I actually never use AI to write my content on sheetsresume.com or on anywhere else in my professional life. I don't use AI because I actually think that it is, maybe I'm being a little prideful, but I think that I'm one of the people who actually their writing becomes worse when they use AI. I think that it's like fairly unimaginative and
Right.
straightforward writing. Um, but I think for most people, it's a huge upgrade. And so now I never want people to just kind of take their resume from our platform and just send it in immediately. I always want people to take a look at it, make sure that it's accurate, make sure that it sounds good to them, reword a few things that maybe sound clunky or verbose. But overall, I think that it's a really amazing time saver, especially for mundane writing. Like that's the thing is, I don't want AI to do creative writing or strategic writing or anything that I think that I'm quite good at or that I find that I enjoy. But when it comes to like writing a resume, like that's very like torturous. And I find that like it's better to have a AI companion to just talk to and
Right.
say, here's what I do, here's what I've done, here's my bread and butter, my skill sets,
Right.
and then have the AI structure that and give it that resume structure. And the other thing is a lot of people don't know how to write a resume. So like you may be a bad writer or not a great writer. You may have writer's block and not know what to say. And you may not even really understand what people are looking for in a resume. So if the AI companion can do all of that for you, I think you're just increasing the chances that you're going to get an interview. And I think that that's what matters at the end of the day is, are you maximizing your opportunity to get an interview?
Right. And with that, I was gonna say, look, I mean, I'm 39, and we AI is not really so much a new thing. I would say we had our tools back in the day. We had our Grammarly. Of course, you have your spell checks, etc.
It's funny. I never used Grammarly, spell check, of course. But I know what you mean. We've had Grammarly for years. We've had
Right.
writing assistants, different things like that. If you think about it, calculator is very much an AI, right? In terms of like most people can't do math in their heads. I can't,
Oh,
I like being able to do some of this stuff more traditionally. I don't like the AI takeover of it all. Um,
yeah.
I think with a lot of this stuff, it's kind of like drugs or alcohol or any other vice where it's like, does this serve you or are you serving it? And I think that like if AI is serving you and it's like enhancing your life and it's giving you time back in your day and it's offloading things that you'd rather not do, then I think it's a great tool. But I think that it's like if you're not thinking anymore and you're offloading all your conversations and your therapy and your to-do list and your job responsibilities and like all your emails and your like uh, all these there if you just become like a warm body and the AI kind of takes over your thoughts in the actual hard act of thinking, then I don't think that it's serving you very much anymore.
Right.
Yeah. That being
Yeah.
said, the resume itself is an entirely modern corporate invention and has no bearing on whether or not you're maximizing your human existence. So
Right.
for stuff like resume writing, I think that AI is awesome for because it has no bearing on your
Right.
soul.
And I do think that AI, it should be a supplement. It shouldn't
Right.
be your sole source. I mean, it's you do even like when it comes to resume writing, you should come in with some prompts, with some data initially.
Mm.
And I'll
Well,
tell you,
a
man,
lot of people don't know what they do when they're writing a resume. They're like, "What do I even do? What do I do all day? Like, how do I articulate this? How do I
right,
describe my responsibilities?" Is the way that I think about my responsibilities the way that other people at other companies would describe those responsibilities? Are my skills in the right wording? Like, am I representing myself well? Am I putting my best foot forward? Do I have the right order of things on the resume? Am I leading with the wrong stuff? And so having a thinking companion that's an expert in that, that doesn't cost, $800 for a one-on-one human
right,
resume review is an enormous tool for people to have in their tool belt. Because like God, it's so stupid the way that we do job hunts and job searches. It's like, send me an 8 by 11 piece of paper that describes your entire life. Like that, like that's reasonable to ask somebody to do. And then it's like, also don't be emotional about it and make sure that you craft the perfect document. Then you got to
yeah.
write a cover letter. Tell us that we're the prettiest girl in school.
Oh, I
Then you
know.
then you
Yeah.
have to answer the interview questions just so. And you can't have rehearsed it too much, but you can't bumble in your answers at all. And you can't and you better get it right on the first try because there's no redos. And it's like, and all of this is just like such a silly system that we have to sort worthiness. So I
Yeah.
really think that yeah, AI can free up a lot of time in these really I would say like denigrating tasks of finding a job.
Right. It's funny that you bring that up. I remember the days of writing resumes, and there's so many templates to choose from,
It's
and then
crazy.
the cover letter. And dude, let me tell you about the job fairs. Basically, it's you've been to one of them, you've been to them all. You know, and you might have gone to some of these out of college,
Like
where
speed
you have
dating.
are yes, or even in college. It's like, oh, we do this. This is the kind of stuff we do. Oh, but we're not hiring. Or you have to have this, and that. It's like, oh, fuck me,
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that we do on sheetsresume.com that I think is a really nice time saver is when you make your resume with us, we then upload it to um, another AI tool that we've created that will then go out on the internet and find jobs all over the internet that you actually qualify for based on your resume.
man. Hmm.
And then we'll serve you those job postings and we'll basically say, hey, here's here 40 jobs that we think that you'd be awesome for. And so we're basically also turning into like a light recruiting service where we're actually like helping people get connected with companies that we don't take any money for that, but it's something that we just love doing because I mean, what's the alternative to like go on LinkedIn and search for keywords and hope that one job board at a time that the companies that you want to work at are all advertising on that job board. And so we actually go out and we find jobs for people that they qualify for and show them to them.
Yeah. And so now, as far as like the success rate of folks finding them, I'm interested in that because LinkedIn. I mean, I don't know if you've applied for jobs on LinkedIn, but there's a lot of nah, not a good art. Sometimes, you get a rejection for something that you don't even remember applying for, and
Yeah,
that's even if you're doing it like the traditional way. It's like, hold on, I applied for this a year ago. You're just looking.
yeah, this is a big problem. That there's so much technology bloat in the ecosystem, and it's because there's so much money to be spent on hiring the right people because it's truly the most important part of an organization. I mean, realistically, the people that you hire will determine the success of your company. I mean, what else is there, right? Like
Right.
now there's AI, but I mean, realistically, who you hire is the most important ingredient into a company's success. And so there's so much money to find the right people. And I think that there's infinite tools that have been created for the companies, for the employers I think there's been very little tools or very few or poor ones created to actually help the candidate. And that's what I'm really passionate about is actually helping the employee and helping the worker navigate this very dystopian system that we've set up for ourselves. And it's not just the job candidates that are lost in it. I mean, the companies, I know I do recruiting for a living. And I know people who do recruiting for a living inside of companies. It is exhausting trying to deal with all of these different technologies, keep track of all the candidates. This person applied this week, this person applied last month. Which conversation are you in the middle of? So you can have all the technology in the world, and it's still very exhausting to keep track of everything for the internal recruiters. So I do have some empathy for them. But one of the reasons why you might hear in the media, like there are 8 million available jobs in the US. I love those memes all the time. It's like there's 8 million jobs and there's like 9 million unemployed people or like whatever it is. And then people are like, okay, well, like how can there be this many job openings? And it's like, well, companies don't retire job postings that they have already hired for,
Right.
or they don't remember which ones they have live, or they were never going to hire for them in the first place and they're just totally a ghost job just to show that the company is growing. There's so
So
many there's
clickbait, basically.
so much, yes, so much noise. There's so much noise in this space, and so you never know if what you're applying for is a real job or if it's just
Yeah,
a ghost job.
you really don't.
No.
You don't know.
And the average job applicant, because of that, now applies to over 200 jobs before they get their first offer, which is insane. I mean, it's an insane system that we've set up. So everything I do at Sheets Resume, I do trying to create some modicum of sanity for job seekers. I really think that it helps people get a little bit of sanity back in the process.
Right. Indeed.
Yeah,
Indeed.
it's a bad
So
practice.
so so you would argue that the success rate of those finding jobs, or how quickly would you say they find jobs using an AI resume builder versus trying to do it the traditional way?
That's a good question. We don't. So this is a passion project.
Okay.
So I actually don't track the follow ups on people who use our service, just because I don't really have like an email marketing thing set up with them. Like
Right.
I don't have emails flowing out to them. Hey, take this survey. Da 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 da. We do collect reviews because I want feedback from people on the software,
Okay.
and we get tremendous reviews from people. So I think I have good qualitative data that it's helping people out in a very visceral, like meaningful way. Um, but I don't think I have the quantitative data to answer that question. But if you go to sheetsresume.com/reviews, you'll see people who have said that this resume is touched by God. The devil would be disappointed in Sheets Resume. It's a software that actually tries to help people.
Right.
We had a guy the other day email me and he said, I interviewed for jobs. I applied for 11 months and I didn't get any offers. And I redid my resume with you guys and I applied to 10 different jobs. And now I have 5 job offers to choose from. And
Damn.
like, yeah, and we've had people who have gotten like massive raises and this stuff will like change the trajectory of somebody's entire family line, which is nuts. Like more money, better healthcare, better job, better commute, like more time at home, more time with the family.
Yeah.
This is the type of thing that can have like generational ripple effects. And so that's what I really love is just hearing from people like, you know, how it helped them. And whenever we get negative or constructive feedback, I always take action on it. But first and foremost, this is a passion project. I probably will follow up with people at some point to ask like questions that I can quantify, like how fast did you find a job after you work with us, and kind of put some flashy big X percentage of people find jobs type of thing. But I don't really feel a need to do that right now.
Or even if you did something like just created like a questionnaire that you kind of distributed out.
Yeah,
You could do that maybe like on a quarterly basis.
I
You
should
could
do
get
that.
some data that way.
I just don't have very much time, but I should totally
I
do
say,
that.
look, Yeah, created in what's
Create it
in
with AI. I'll make it.
yeah,
I'll write it with
R in
AI.
Google,
Yeah,
or and create it with a Google tool, and yeah,
yeah, it's a good
you'd be
idea.
good. So yeah, I can think back to my days at career fairs,
It's exhausting.
and yeah, it is exhausting, and it's really like a full time job in itself, except you get no money for it.
That was actually one of the things my wife used to be a real estate broker, and she actually quit that because she was always showing up to homes and all these different things, and that's the job, right? But she would never get paid for any of the hours that she would put in.
Right.
And
So
I
you're
think
putting
that,
all this wear and tear on your vehicle, and
yep.
you get nothing in return for it.
Think about the job application process. If you're applying 200 jobs and you have to write a cover letter for each one, let alone, tailor your resume and get it all polished up. But let's say that you apply to 200 jobs and you are writing a cover letter for each one. And
Right.
a cover letter takes you 20 minutes, right? 200 jobs, 20 minutes per cover letter. You're looking at 4,000 minutes spent on that. And I mean, what is that in hours? Is that something like, uh, goodness, 65, 67 hours of
Hmm.
time? And so, like, you're literally losing days of your life to this incredibly stupid process.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's something that I don't think people think about enough, especially employed people. I don't think they realize how uh, just how stressful and how long the modern job search takes.
Oh, I think those of us who've done it don't seem to forget it.
Yeah,
I would argue that if you do claim to have forgotten it, I mean it's because you voluntarily have done so, because you know what a grueling process that is. Now, and I will say that AI probably would have helped with a resume back in the day, because like I said, you have all these templates to choose from. Some say you should only have this many bullet points, or some say you shouldn't put more than X amount of years.
can I
And
go off on a bit of
oh,
a rant about
absolutely.
this?
Go
So
ahead.
basically, there's so much bad advice in the resume space, and it's just completely exhausting trying to whack a mole with all the bad advice. Tangible examples. There are a lot of resume, like you said, have 100 templates to choose from, like 100 different formats: green, blue, yellow, 2 columns, 4 columns. Um, and to me, if a resume builder has any more than one or maybe two or three templates for you to choose from, they are lying to you in order to get you to buy their product, because they should know what works. And there are material interview rate differences between a 2 column resume and a single column resume, or a 2 page resume and a 1 page resume, a resume with a summary and a resume with no summary, a resume with color and a black and white resume. There, if you lead with skills or if you lead with work, there are so many different I know from my time as a recruiter what works and what gets people interviews. And it is a very simple black and white format that is easy to read, that bolds certain things, italicizes others, doesn't overdo it with the formatting, no color, and it puts the most important thing, most impressive thing right up front at the top. There's no summaries because anybody can write a summary about how amazing they are, especially with AI. Everybody can have AI write some flowery, flowing summary about how amazing they are. And that pushes your most relevant and your most impressive things actually down the page instead of bringing it right up top at the top of the page. So there are a lot of people out there that are selling snake oil. I can't stand this industry. And what I tell people is, if the founder or the person who owns the resume builder is not actively putting their face on the product, and they're not saying, here's who I am, here's my LinkedIn, here's how you can contact me, here's how you can reach me, and it's just some faceless software that's like this slick user experience that tries to get you to buy something. They're a predator. They're trying to take your money in a vulnerable time in your life, and they don't give a damn if you get more interviews, and they're not going to give you a
That
refund.
part.
They're not going to give you a refund. You can kick rocks. They're going to make you subscribe to their monthly thing, and they're never going to refund you if you forget to renew, if you forget to cancel it before the renewal date. And so I have a lot of opinions about my competition. And something else I'll say while I'm on this rant is that most of my competitors are actually owned by one company,
Okay.
and their company called Bold, and they own Resume Now, Resume Genius, Zeti, Monster, Live Career, Career Builder. They own My Perfect Resume. They own, I think it's Resume Hero. They own dozens of resume
Damn.
builders, and they pretend, allegedly, that they're different companies and that they are, these different brands, and all that we have our philosophies over here and the different, it's all the same software effectively, with different front end wrappers over the back end functionality. And they don't, from what I've seen, maybe I'm missing it, maybe it's on the website somewhere, but I haven't seen them disclose to users that they're owned by one large conglomerate. And maybe they are all
Yeah.
different LLCs technically, so they're all different companies with one parent subsidiary. But yeah, it's a very predatory market, and there are people in this industry that are just looking to take your money, and they don't care, and they will never get back to you on the customer care email, and they will hide their negative reviews. I'm not saying that Bold or any of their brands do this. I'm saying that that's the industry that I'm in, is broadly these practices are very,
Right.
very, very anti-consumer.
And let's talk about Monster.com, man. Monster.com. Damn it.
Yeah,
That's a joke.
yeah, it
Okay.
is a joke.
The only thing that you really see on that site are the insurance sales positions.
Mm-hmm.
Like you
Mm.
get little to nothing from most, but it's funny. But I did get a couple of interviews for it was for a sales job with Aflac,
Mm.
and I was like, yeah. And then so commission only. You're
Commission only is
getting
crazy.
getting
I don't know
up,
how that's legal. Commission only is insane.
yeah, getting up,
Yeah, yeah.
and I've always wondered, like, okay, so after you've gone to every business in town and tried to gather up some clientele, then what?
You know, it was funny. I was just thinking to myself, how is that legal? And then I answered my own question in my head, and I hope you don't mind this rant because it's technically
Okay.
socially aware. So I know you have some
Oh,
political stuff on the podcast, but it's
go ahead.
it's legal because we live in this like incredibly hostile country towards the individual and towards the worker, and the worker really has no rights. We are, taught not to collectively bargain, not to unionize. We're taught that the corporate overlords are the people who create all the jobs, and so we should be so grateful to them. We have the same tax brackets and the same tax responsibility and the same regulatory overhead for small businesses and independent business owners and entrepreneurs as we do for trillion-dollar companies with millions of employees. Doesn't make any sense why we have the same regulatory components to oversee companies that are making $500,000 a year versus companies that are making $500 billion a year. And it's just, living in this country is like a constant struggle, and being constantly aware of how much control the wealthy and the elite have over our system of governance, and how badly they want to lock out anyone who can be considered a threat to that control. And so then they use the government in order to lock out the threats, and they control, I mean, look, they control the private equity, which controls the job boards, which controls, all these different companies, which, are the gatekeepers for people who get hired. They've got notes on people in their system and back channels and references. Um, and this is one of the reasons why I'm such a big proponent of entrepreneurship, however you can, is this the only way to break out of this system that we're born into?
Right.
And it's pretty upsetting. I mean, I used to do substitute teaching back in Colorado. When I was bored, I would substitute teach on a Friday afternoon. And I think I had this epiphany a few years ago where I realized, I was like, oh, and you're a former educator, so I think that you'll get this, but I think you've done education. You worked in university. Um, but I had this realization that public school is not education. It is daycare, taxpayer funded daycare for the current working class. And it's training and programming for the next working class. And
Well,
it
yeah,
absolutely breaks my, like, anyone who makes it out of that system, it's totally incidental. There's no purpose driven education there. And any teachers who do a good job are actively fighting against the system that's set up to stop them from doing a good job. It's really something else once you see.
yeah, and I think now, especially, now, I mean, I think public school, I would say school in general, they all have their pros and cons, but I would say that public school with the No Child Left Behind Act,
Oh,
did become more about it. That was the beginning of public school basically becoming a daycare.
when they write the story of the American collapse and the United States downfall, they're gonna probably start with the Vietnam War and the Powell memo under Richard Nixon that basically became a blueprint for the Heritage Foundation and Roger Ailes and all the other conservative overlords in our country to follow a certain blueprint to control our system of governance. So something like Richard Nixon stepping down would never happen again to conservative president. And it's probably going to start there, and then it's going to make stops during the Reagan administration with the gutting of labor unions, with lowering effective tax rates on billionaires to the lowest level in society, with ballooning deficits that we didn't fund and our debt getting out of control. And then it's going to jump to George Bush Jr. and the No Child Left Behind Act. And it's going to jump to the financial crisis. And it's going to jump to our wars of choice in Iraq and Afghanistan. And the last 50 or 60 years of this country, and No Child Left Behind is such a huge part of this, has really hollowed out, I think, what it means to be an American and the type of country that we live in. And yeah, it's going to be a really interesting chapter in the history books when it's written. But I think No Child Left Behind will be a big piece of that.
Yeah, because like I'm in public service, and right now I'm at the Office of Motor Vehicles, and you have kids come in to get like their temporary instructional permits for driver's ed, and something that comes up occasionally is how when it comes to their signature, they don't really know cursive, and I think, and I'm like, it's gonna be so easy to forge their names. I think that cursive, if for nothing else, you should know it to be able to sign your name because, bruh, it's gonna be easy to forge y'all's names. Y'all are gonna be so easy to get in identity theft.
It actually breaks my heart that kids don't know how to write anymore. There's something very human about writing, and one of the things, again, I feel like it would be like a 7-year PhD to actually like write about what's wrong with the United States right now and like everything leading up to it. But there's different pieces of the puzzle, and one of them is the fact that we've introduced these Chromebooks and these laptops into schools everywhere, because there are multiple studies that show that kids don't retain information on digital the same way they do writing it down in a spiral notebook. And so not only have we moved towards digital information capture in schools, which kids don't retain, but we've also moved away from teaching them how to write, and how to write quickly. And that to me is like a very human thing that like has really gone away in my lifetime so
Right.
rapidly.
And
I, I'm
I was
36, but I
yeah,
learned how to write cursive print. I had to write the same sentence 100 times in a row. I had to,
Oh yeah.
do essays on college ruled loose leaf paper, and
Yeah, the rough drafts, although we could type the
the
final
rough, yeah,
draft.
you type the final draft or the rough draft. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And your brainstorming was on loose leaf paper. And I was talking about that.
I remember
Yeah.
notes I took in eighth grade. I remember them now because that's how deeply ingrained
Right.
the writing is when you're just painstakingly writing notes.
And I was talking with a cousin of mine so recently. So she works in the charter school system, down here. And we were kind of talking about like in the past, like us. I mean, she's about your age. So we were able to flip flop between tech
Analog and
and
digital, yeah.
yeah, and digital. Yes. Oh, speaking of analog, the analog clock.
Yeah.
That's something we also learned. We learned both. Like
I've got one
by the
on my bedside. It wakes me
by
up
the
every
third
morning.
grade.
Yeah. No, I try to have as much analog in my life as I can. I actually I just got rid of my iPhone, and I was telling you before we started recording, I've got this new Mudita e-ink phone that's like Android based, but it doesn't have any
Okay.
apps on it. It only has calls, text, and maps and music, and that's it. And
So it's
I'm
basically a flip phone with a little Android,
it's a
benefits.
touchscreen flip phone, exact. And
Yes.
done with I'm done with social media. I'm just done outsourcing my thoughts and my actions and my time and my day to other people.
You know what got me to say, okay, Joel, it's time for you to take another hiatus. And I think this might be the longest hiatus from Facebook that I've taken.
Mm.
I, this political climate that we are in,
Oh yeah.
and just the looking online to see what the folks that I know
Ooh.
co-sign with, and I'm like, okay,
You never you
I
never want
get,
to you never want to meet your heroes, aka the people that
and right, and I'm like, look, we all have our political preferences. I get that, but holy shit,
But the
dude.
thing is, my political preferences. I'm going to be more generous to myself here, right? My political preferences are that people don't go bankrupt from cancer, right?
Right,
I feel like that's
exact,
broadly like a good political preference to have. It's like,
right,
hey, we're the only country on earth where people go bankrupt from cancer. Maybe we could look at doing something about the singular American unique thing of getting cancer and being financially ruined from it.
right.
And it's like that's my political thing, right? That's my bugaboo. And then other people are like, "Hey, I think that the Latin immigrants that are building all the homes are actually the reason why I can't afford a home, and I want to violently round all of them up and rip them away from their families and their
Yeah,
communities and send them back to a country that they've never lived in."
yeah,
And I'm like,
and
okay, so that's
yes,
not a reasonable
no,
like
it's not.
take. And so I have a big problem with like I want to be generous to everyone's political views, and I want to understand where people are coming from, and
Right.
I'm happy to have these debates, but I just don't think that there are this
Those people are not debatable.
they're
They're
not
not.
debatable, but I don't think they have the same altruistic goals that
No, they don't.
I think that it's a lot more utilitarian, a lot more selfish. It's a lot more fear based instead of, a more call it an abundance mindset. Although I don't like the new book by Klein, Abundance. I think it's like kind of a liberal fantasy. But like I just I don't know. I have a really hard time with the political climate on social media, not because of the disagreement, but because of the vitriol and because of the refusal of everyone to learn anything. And that I think is really tough. Like
Right.
and there are very obvious liars in the system. I had a guy the other day before I swapped out my phone. I was talking about how Donald Trump has made the most stock trades of anyone ever in politics in just 1 year. And he's made millions of dollars Not even talking about the cryptocurrency billions that he's made, right? Pure corruption, in my opinion. He's pumping companies and selling stocks. And the person responded, they were like, well, what about Nancy Pelosi and Democrats? And I'm like, yo, I know you just met me, but I've also posted many criticisms of Nancy
Right.
Pelosi and Democrats. I think that they should be in jail for insider
Right.
trading. I firmly believe that. And I'm like, but I'm telling you that he's doing something on a level never seen before.
Yeah,
Can't
it's
have the
kind of
words
wild.
to describe the level of corruption in the open that we're seeing right now. And it doesn't stop at the corruption. Like that's the thing, is like they figured out that if you're so cartoonishly selfish and evil and greedy, then you'll get these people defending you because your detractors almost sound insane by how much they're criticizing you for your actions. Like yesterday, he opened up 3 million acres of land in Utah, which is where my wife and I got engaged, in the Utah deserts. Very special, sacred, some of the most spiritual places where you're the closest to God you can be on this earth. And
Right.
he opened it up to mining, and it's like 90% of these national monuments are now open for private mining contracts.
Yeah, that's
and,
wild.
and of course it's illegal because presidents don't have the ability to undesignate national monuments. They only have the ability to designate. But
Right.
his people are so power hungry and focused on grabbing as much power as they can that they're making the argument that no, the law that gives us the ability to designate national monuments also gives us the ability to undesignate them, even though that's not in the law. And so they have no respect for the rule of law. They have no respect for the Constitution or the
So
limited
yeah, they're trying to
authority,
blow that up.
limited powers. Yeah, they're trying to end birthright citizenship, very clearly stated in plain English in the 14th Amendment. And what really drives me crazy, Joel, and I know I've been going on this rant for a while, so please
Okay.
forgive me,
Okay.
is all the people who defend this say that they are constitutional conservatives, or that they are believers in a small government, or
Yeah, this is not a
institution.
small government.
My
This is
brother,
not.
what
No.
what is small about the government deciding who's a citizen and who is not? Like, you really want the US government to turn citizenship into a privilege bestowed by the government instead of a right assigned at birth? Like, it, that they give so much more power to the government. And so I can't handle the philosophical inconsistency or inanity of the other side sometimes. It just doesn't resonate with me as a realistic argument that they're making.
Yeah, so that was the big thing with me having to step away because I'm like, this is not normal. And I'm sitting here having to read and
Mm,
talk to argue with y'all about why this is not normal. And I said, okay, you know what? I'm stepping back.
yeah.
Y'all behave like adults, but look, I'll see you when I see you.
And it is those moments where you have these very, I think, powerful realizations that, oh, people have never cared about democracy throughout history. There is no population of people who gives a shit what rule of governance they live underneath. They care about results, and they care about constant, continuous results day after day, shelter and food for them and their children. And I think that there was this prisoner of the moment belief that Americans had, that other Americans actually did believe in democracy or believed in the Constitution or the rule of law or norms or traditions. And the reality is that we don't believe, as human beings, we don't believe in anything other than what delivers the most results. And that doesn't matter if it's a monarchy, a dictatorship, a democracy, an oligarchy. And so I think that veneer has been lifted for me. And so whenever I argue with people or I read their arguments, I just try to remember that they're not starting from a place of consistency. They're just starting from a place of like, I want this, and here's how I get what I want.
Right,
It's very base.
right.
Yeah.
And my question has been this. if every other president, if politicians from just about any other party can be criticized about something, why are these politicians and our current president somehow exempt from criticism? Like that doesn't make sense.
I have a kind of an interesting answer on that. I think it's interesting. Um, I think that he has made it more apparent than anything in my life that human beings are very obviously primates and members of the ape family. And we forget that. Like, we forget that we are animals. We forget that we are apes. We forget that we are tribal groups of animals that live with a selected leader or, creature at the top of the hierarchy of the tribe. And there's a book called Chimpanzee Politics that's really interesting, that sheds light on this sort of thing. And you really can remember, just looking at the undeserved and unwavering fealty that some people have to Donald Trump, that, oh, we're just animals and these people are just following their animal leader. And like, that's I think that's my answer to it, is like, why is this person exempt from all the logic and the philosophy and the rules and the laws? And it's like, oh, well, like, it must have been like this with Nixon. It must have been like this with Napoleon. It must have been like this with Augustus. It must have been like this with Caesar. It must have been like this with Nebuchadnezzar, with Sargon, the first king of Akkad. It was probably like this with Ashurbanipal of Assyria. Like, there are so many tyrants and dictators throughout history, and they probably all had 35% of the population totally begging for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
So that's what led me taking that break. And I also stepped away from X, Twitter. Elon Musk.
Yeah, I'm on
Now that
thread.
he's
I'm on
got that,
Threads now, that owned by the other billionaire.
yeah,
Yeah. I think I'm done with it though, man. I really do. I think I'm just exhausted by it, and I just don't want to be a part of I don't want to live my life and one day look back and be like, what do I remember most? Scrolling on Instagram? Like, nah. Like, I'm done. So, um now that being said, I do want to be part of the solutions here. So, like, I do my best to speak out. I have a bit of a platform. We have 100,000, 135,000 people on our email list.
yeah.
And I do talk about problems and solutions, and I don't shy away from these conversations. And we donate money to green energy projects as a function of doing business. I've donated I think over $250,000 in my life via my businesses to two different charities, and really try to be part of the solution, part of the world I want to live in. And I think there's a really good quote by F. Scott Fitzgerald that's like, you need to be able to hold two thoughts in your head at once. First, that things are hopeless, um, but two, that you are determined to change them anyway. I think that's very, very well said and needed in today's day and age.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you. So these days, now that you've basically gotten off, so do you think? And this is something that I was asked recently. Would you say that your mental health has improved since stepping away from that all?
Oh yeah,
Because I was asked that,
oh
and I was
yeah,
like, I would say yeah. And
oh yeah.
I was like, yeah, I honestly don't miss it though. I mean, I peek in periodically just to see what folks are up to.
It's like
But then
visiting a zoo,
yes, and then you look and see what's going on. It's like, you know what? Okay, one, why do I still have you on my friend list? And two, you still on this?
bro. People. There's a quote. Most men live lives of quiet desperation. Most people have nothing in their life that gives them meaning. They hate their families. They don't have a lot of friends. They hate their job. They don't particularly believe in God or have a religious fervor about them or a spiritual connection to existence beyond what they're told in the church they attend once every few months. Like most people don't have much to hang their identity on. And I think that's what has really scared me about the modern moment is that, my identity is wrapped up in how I treat other people, the time I spend with my family, my friendships, my work, my purpose, how I help make a better world. That's where my identity is wrapped up in. It has nothing to do with what I believe or, you know, what party I belong to or what leaders I have. Um, you know, it, it's an identity that I've never really questioned, and I'm lucky that I've always had it. But I think for most people, this political environment has created a sense of identity around their leaders and around their party. And it's the type of thing that you see when people are like, I'm a fiscal conservative, but I'm socially liberal or something like that. That's their identity coming out trying to tell you I'm a cool person and I'm socially liberal and I'm down for whatever and I'm easygoing, but
Okay.
I'm also very smart and I'm very intelligent and I think about the economy and I think about taxes. And it's like okay, I get it, dude. Like you want lower taxes and you are okay if gay
Don't
people.
we all? Just
Right. It's like I'm fiscally conservative, I'm social liberal. Okay, I like to smoke weed and I'm cool with gay people. And, like I also want lower taxes. It's like it's not that deep when you think about it. But for most people, like these type of things have become their identity. So I feel bad when I look at people on X or on Facebook and I'm part of it. I'm not above it. Like I definitely participate and I hate that I participate too much even now from my desktop, but I am trying to do it less. My screen time is down from like 5 or 6 hours a day to like 1 or 2 hours per day since I got rid of the iPhone. Um, and I'm really, really happy about that. Like, I
yeah.
really want to continue down that path and I want to keep growing in that area
Yeah.
because I'm reading more books, I'm spending more time with my wife, I'm, doing more things that I love with my family. Um, and it's hard because the phone has also become a conduit for political activism,
Right.
and people will say that if you disengage that you are sort of giving in to um, what's happening, but I actually somewhat
No, I'm not.
yeah, I somewhat disagree with that. I think you'll probably appreciate this take. I actually think that by getting offline and by building more community in person with people in your local areas, you actually are going to be building stronger systems of resilience for what's to come. And I think that what is to come is probably a lot more, unfortunately, political violence and a little bit of nastiness coming on the pipeline. I think we're going to be tested in the coming year and 2 or 3 years. And I think that having these bonds within your community in person is a lot more valuable than the social media, which I think is a little bit of a false flag opiate to keep people distracted. I don't think it really does much.
No, it doesn't. And honestly, I would argue that we're going to be tested this November.
Yeah,
I mean, we have a midterm election coming up. And
yeah.
then, of course, in my home state, we were not able to vote for a house in the primaries because our governor, at the ruling
Basically
of the
canceled it.
maps, yes,
Yeah.
just halted the house election.
No, and
So we will be
no
able to
one gave
vote
a fuck. No one
In
talked
November.
about it. It went right under the radar. Dude, that's what I'm saying is no one gives a fuck about the democracy. I'm telling you right now, if Trump says midterms are canceled because we're in a war with Iran, you're gonna have because the news is totally poisonous. You'll have a conversation about is this the right move? Can we do this?
Hell no, it's
Is there
not.
dude?
How about that? That's my answer.
I
Hell
agree. I
no.
agree. And I'm tired of being polite to people. You can probably hear it in my voice and I hear it in your voice. I am really tired of being polite to people who I don't just have a difference of opinion with, but rather who just are Machiavellian, cynical political actors who don't really have the best interests of me and my family and the country and our society at heart. And so I have to make that judgment call quickly in terms of who I'm speaking with. Am I speaking with someone who's a good actor or a bad actor? But I think that when it comes to bad actors, I'm being very aggressive with them nowadays,
Right.
rhetorically. I'm not letting them get a word in, and I'm not letting them spout their bullshit for other
Right.
people.
Like I recently had to address that on X. So like I periodically I'll see what's going on X. I mean, cause look, I got the account in 2009. I stepped away. I post sporadically, but lately my timeline I've been getting a, a lot of posts from these individuals who are anti-Islam. And let me say,
Mm,
Islam extremism, I would argue that yeah, it is a system that does need to be dismantled. They talk about they don't want Sharia law, but I just say, okay, y'all, okay, look, there are some Muslim extremists, and I'll give you that, but y'all acting like there's a there's not a sizable portion of evangelicals that want to create something just basically Sharia law without the hijab. I mean, really?
what do they call it? They call it Al Qaeda or oh my gosh, there's a bunch of jokes about like the Christians don't realize how theocratic they can be when they're given power, and it's funny because put the Ten Commandments in classrooms, and and it's funny because then they just justify it with like, well, it's okay because that's our religion, and
And
it's
let me
like and
say this.
it's so funny. It's like, well, that's the basis of our society. That's our
Yeah,
Western religion. It's like, yeah, no, that's still a religious theocratic dominance.
right.
Like,
And
yeah, people are so myopic about that, and it's
And my thing is, and look, and I'm not opposed to having the Ten Commandments. I mean, I'm not offended by it.
no, of course not. I'm not offended by
But
it either. I'm offended by the hypocrisy and the
yes,
idiocy. Yeah,
yes.
yeah. I'm
And
offended by the myopia.
has it really made your school any better? That's my
No,
question.
dude, there's a school shooting every goddamn day, and
Yes.
the response is to put the Ten Commandments back in classrooms. Like, yo, thou shalt not kill is taught to every little child in America, every generation, and still school shootings happen. So maybe it's not the words that they're learning when they're children. Maybe it's the mental health care in this country. Maybe it's the fact that kids are detached from one another online. Maybe it's the fact that they have easy access to firearms. They can get one the same day. Maybe it's the size of the firearms and the amount of
Yeah.
ammunition in them. Maybe these are coalescing problems that cascade and intersect, and
Right.
you can limit them 10% here and there and have a really big impact, or you can just try to pray it away and hope that whichever god in the sky that we're currently praying to. That's the one of the funny things to me is that, and I think I tweeted this out a while ago, and I try not to be offensive to religious people because I'm actually quite religious in the sense of like I definitely believe that this is like a created space. Like I believe that we're in a realm that, like we're here, we're in a physical space. I think that we're all the same particle. I think that we're all entangled with each other, and that we are, every tree, every home, every star, every speck of dust. It's all the same thing. It's all creation, and we always forget that we're not a part of creation. We are creation. Um, so I'm actually quite religious and spiritual in a lot of ways. So I don't hate religious people, and I don't think lesser of them. But it does crack me up that we have these like the deities of the modern age. Like when I hear people talking about how Jesus walked on water or turned water into wine or healed the sick or the blind, like it reminds me of like how Carthaginians would talk about how Melkot, ripped the Straits of Gibraltar open, or how the Romans said that Hercules actually pulled it closer and to keep the sea monsters out of the Mediterranean. Or it reminds me of like Baal Haman, like kneading sacrifices in order to ensure a successful voyage, like and all the different sun gods and weather gods. And it makes a lot more sense to me to worship those things, by the way, like the sun and the weather and the rain and the moon and what gives us gravity and tides and all that good stuff. But I definitely crack up when I hear about people like my current deity, my personification of God is the correct one, and they get really caught up. And it's funny because they discount all the other religions throughout history, all the polytheistic religions, all the incorrect monotheistic religions, and yet they can't see that their current iteration is just this. It's just mythology. It's funny. I mean, there's a chapter in the Bible about a guy that goes into the mouth of a whale. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, the Book of Jonah.
It's like it's like, dude, this is mythology. Like, what do you mean? Like, these are stories to teach people lessons about how to be Jewish or how to be Christian. Like, it's not. I don't know. It's just really funny how people can't see it. And I'm sure people get upset like just hearing me say that, but I'm not trying to be an asshole to anybody. I talk to my father-in-law about this sometimes. He's very, very religious. He lives in Louisiana. My wife's from Louisiana.
Oh,
Um,
what part?
Monroe.
Oh, Monroe. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I go there. I
Central.
go there
Got
all
it.
the time, and I talk to religious people all the time. I'm not trying to like. I always tell them like I'm just fascinated by the belief system, and I think it's good for the most part. Just not good when it's imposed on other people. Um, I also think that Jesus was a really awesome dude and was very radical for his time. And I love talking about. And I don't know if we can get into this tangent because I do have to run in just a second, but
Oh, fair enough.
I do think that Jesus was a radical political revolutionist who was 6 years old when Judea was incorporated into the Roman Empire as a sort of a conquered province. And he grows up hearing about a free Jerusalem and a free Judea in living memory from the people who raised him. And I think it's so fascinating to think about him as this revolutionary leader, a peaceful revolutionary leader, in the context of multiple Jewish Roman wars in the first century AD, and culminating with the third Jewish war under Hadrian, where he basically outlawed Judaism and created the first seeds of anti-Semitism in Europe that would eventually culminate in the Holocaust, almost 2,000 years later. It's really like this stuff is so cool to me. Like, I just love the historical part of it. And I think that Jesus is smack dab in the middle of that. And I wish more religious people were like interested in the historical figure of Christ because I think he's a really fascinating character.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I would argue that I consider myself to be a Christian, though I'll admit I am not an avid churchgoer these days. I mean, I guess you could say that. I know it's kind of cliche. I mean, I guess you could say that I am more quote unquote spiritual than religious,
Yeah.
but I do identify as a Christian.
Yeah.
And I would argue that there are some Christians who are more philosophically minded, even if they hold on to the core principles in the deity and, Christ's divinity. I do think that there are some that do, like myself, who do have a social science mindset.
I can't remember who said it, but they said it well. It was like religion and church are the filters through which people are able to deal with the terrifying exposure to existence. Because most people can't really deal with the ambiguity of the fact that they exist, but they don't know why or what existence is.
Right.
And so religion becomes this like filter and this gate and this film or like lens in between you and those thoughts, because to actually go through those thoughts and I haven't gone through them. I haven't come out on the other side of them because it is truly terrifying. I'm getting anxious just thinking about it now. Like the personal journey that you have to go on to confront the mystery of existence is, I think, very it's very scary and it's very painful. And so I think church has kind of this like operating layer of like, hey, don't think about it. Don't worry about it. You're good. Follow these 10 rules. Follow maybe a couple more. Say a few magic words. And brother, you are good to go. You're living for eternity. And it's like I think it's very, very like almost like juvenile in the way that it treats the and this is on a very basic level. I'm not talking about theology or the deep study of religion. I'm just talking about the lighter level that most people engage with it on.
Right.
Yeah. So, well, hey man, it was great talking to you. I think
Likewise.
conversation. I'm sorry that it went off the rails here and there, but it was a
Oh,
fun one.
oh, it's all right. And
Yeah.
yeah, maybe we'll have another one like closer to midterms or a little afterwards.
Yeah, if they happen, or
Well,
if we're all still
exactly.
alive. Yeah, no,
Yeah. So depending on if they happen, right? Maybe we'll talk about what the fuck.
I'm a huge fan. But the last thing I'll say is I'm a huge fan. Sarcastically, I'm a huge fan of how whenever the GOP wins an election, it's a valid, well-run election.
Oh my
And whenever
god.
they lose
Yes.
an election, it is a rigged, dirty
Oh
game
my god.
by the
Yes.
Democrats. And it's such a weird, hubristic, like,
Like, dude, you're
pride.
not gonna get everything you want.
Dude, they want every
Like, you're
they are
not.
relentless in their demand to have everything they want. It's like, dude, other people disagree with you. In fact, for the majority of presidential elections in my lifetime, the majority of US citizens have disagreed with you on the direction the country that it should go.
Right.
Trump won a 49% plurality. Just because you believe something does not make it the vast majority position
And
that
I
you
can
cannot
even
imagine that opposition exists to.
talk about a past election here in Louisiana. So one of the amendments was one that would give teachers here a raise, but the raise was coming out of their retirement. So basically, when it came time for them to retire, they wouldn't have shit left.
Dude,
It's like, did you really think? I'm just like, come on,
people
Jeff Landry.
th-
Did you really think teachers were gonna go for that?
one of my favorite things about Colorado, and we'll end on this, is that with automatic vote by mail, everybody gets a ballot in the mail, right? And you can vote at your leisure over your kitchen table with a cup of coffee, talking to your spouse. There's no rush to make decisions, and then you mail it in when you're ready. And in Colorado, that has yielded really phenomenal results where they have really robust legal markets for things like marijuana and now legal medicinal psychedelics. It's led to very robust environmental protections. It has led to really tremendous infrastructure. It's led to really sensible tax policy and and not just on the progressive side. Like there are things on the more conservative side that have also been passed and that make a lot of sense, like the taxpayer bill of rights. And I'm really proud of Colorado, and that is why the GOP and Donald Trump are undermining vote by mail so fervently and so aggressively,
Well,
is because it allows people to make informed decisions. And when people make informed decisions, they do tend to vote more for progressive or more thoughtful incentives instead of
depends on where you're at and depends on your mindset. And I'll
it
say this.
does. But research usually yields better outcomes, whether it's left or right. And when you have to make these shotgun decisions in a voting booth with no prior information, you can't make good decisions just based on that day. Can't do
Well,
it.
and I encourage people like here. We have an app, called the Go Vote app, so you can
Mm.
actually read those amendments before you go in. That way, you're not just clueless. And while I would say mail-in voting, it's limited to like the elderly, the
Yeah,
disabled, college
absolutely.
students,
Yeah.
those who are away. We also do have early voting, so so like the week or so before the election, which is something that they also trying to fight
Trying to fight. They're trying
in
to fight it
DC.
in every which way possible, man. And I'm like, and honestly, like now they're trying to fight women's right to vote. Like that's becoming more of a mainstream. It's astroturf. It's paid for by billionaires, right? But like it works its way into the mainstream, and now you've got all these younger Gen Z women influencers being like, I hate decision making. I don't want to have to vote. I want to vote the way my husband votes. And it's like, dude,
And yeah, and that's another thing. Single. Okay, I have no problem with a woman that wants to be a housewife as long
of
as it's
course
her
not.
own choice. But traditional housewives ain't ain't on YouTube. They're not doing podcasts
No,
talking about it.
no,
They right. They're not. They don't have sponsorships.
no, they're working
They're not. Uh,
in the
that
home.
part.
They're
That
working.
part.
Yeah. And also like the, I have seen this with myself and I've seen it with my own wife. There is I think a deep um sense of longing for like what you're missing out on if you don't have the choice to pursue your means of fulfillment. And for some people that's like, having kids and raising a family, and for other people it's not. And I think that like what we have gained in society, even though we have a more complex society with two incomes and a family and two jobs, and less downtime for one half of the couple, like I think that while we've lost some things, we've gained a tremendous amount of mental health for one gender, which was really forced into the homemaker role for pretty much all of
Yeah.
Western civilization history, starting in Rome. And now they
And
finally have this freedom, and people want to take it away. And
that was honestly though that was up to wealthy women because that was not the story for most black women.
right,
Black women were
right.
working as maids.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, that's a part of history that I'm not very well versed in, frankly. I know that there's a lot of black history that I'm still missing. They don't teach it to you as a white kid from South Florida. I mean, they teach you the broad strokes of black history in America, but like there's so many um cultural things that I'm missing,
Mhm.
um like that. So that's a really good point.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think we've gone on, but I definitely want to have a part two to this. So we'll see what's happening this fall, and if, like you said, if we
If
have a midterm, that's a big if.
Sounds good. Hit me up.
All right, but thanks for joining me.
All right. Yeah, Joel, it was a fun conversation. And if people need to find
Absolutely.
me, they can go to sheetsresume.com.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Joel.
All right.
Good chatting with
All
you.
right. Likewise. Have a good one.